It is the 8th of July 2026. It is 34 degrees in London, and Britain's railway is falling over. East Midlands Railway has just cancelled its regional services. The line between Nottingham and Worksop gone from midday, Nottingham to Leicester gone. Trains are being pulled out of service because they have broken down in the heat. Passengers are told to make essential journeys only, to travel before noon, to carry a bottle of water. Out west, Great Western has locked its points, physically bolting sections of track into one position so they cannot be moved, just to protect the route into Paddington. 34 degrees, not 50. 34. And the country that invented the railway is telling people to stay home. Everybody's first thought is the same. This is a joke. Spain runs trains at 40. Arizona runs trains in a desert. Why does Britain collapse at temperatures that half the planet calls a nice afternoon? The answer is not incompetence, it is a number. One number set into the steel decades before you were born, and once you know it, everything about this makes perfect sense. Before we get into it, hit subscribe and drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. We want to know who's out there. Start with the rail itself. A modern railway is built from continuous welded rail, mile after mile of steel welded into one unbroken ribbon with no gaps. Beautiful ride, terrible temper, because steel expands when it gets hot, and that ribbon is spiked and clipped and anchored down so it cannot move. It wants to grow longer. It is not allowed to. So the force has to go somewhere, and it builds up inside the rail as compression, pushing outward, looking for a way out. Eventually, it finds one. The rail lifts, kinks, and snakes sideways out of line, sometimes several inches, sometimes more. That is a buckle. And a train hitting a buckled rail at speed derails. Now, here is the first thing people get wrong. It is not about the air temperature. Steel absorbs heat and holds it. A rail sitting in direct sunlight runs about 20 degrees hotter than the air around it. So on a 30-degree afternoon, that rail is at 50. On the 18th of July, 2022, a rail in Suffolk was measured at 62 degrees. 62. That is the hottest rail temperature ever recorded in Britain, and it was a summer's day, not a furnace. Most of the British network can cope with track temperatures up to about 46 degrees, which, thanks to that 20-degree gap, means an air temperature of about 30. Now go back to that news report. 34 degrees in London. You see it now. The moment the forecast crosses 30, Britain's railway is already past its design limit and running on borrowed time. So why is it set so low? Here is the number. Every stretch of continuous welded rail on Earth is installed at a chosen temperature called the stress-free temperature. It is the exact temperature at which that rail sits completely relaxed, neither pushing nor pulling. Above it, the rail is in compression and wants to buckle. Below it, the rail is in tension and wants to snap. In Britain, that number is 27 degrees, because 27 was the traditional average summer rail temperature in Britain. In America, the same number is set between 35 and 43. That is it. That is the whole video. British rails are relaxed at 27 degrees, and everything above that is stress. American rails are relaxed at up to 43, so an American summer afternoon barely bothers them. And before you shout that Britain should just raise the number, understand the trap. That stress-free temperature is a bet on your climate, and it cuts both ways. Set it high and you get an easy summer. But come winter, when the steel contracts, the rail is under enormous tension and it tears itself in half. Railwaymen call that a pull apart. It is the exact mirror image of a buckle, and it is just as bad. Britain's entire railway is designed for a range of roughly -10 to +35 degrees. France, for what it is worth, uses the same design range. Spain, which actually gets hot, is set up for 0 to 45, and Spain's rails still buckle when things get extreme. So Britain made a BET, 150 years in, on being a cool, damp island. And on most days, that bet is right. It is only wrong for about a week a year, and that week is now. Now, watch what they actually do about it, because it is more desperate than you think. When the track heats up, Network Rail imposes temporary speed restrictions. Not because a fast train melts anything, but because a heavy train hammering along at 125 miles per hour puts enormous lateral force into a rail that is already straining to escape. Slow the train down, and you take the force off. In the 2022 heat wave, most of England and Wales was pegged at 90 miles per hour instead of 125 miles per hour. Some sections were dropped to 20 miles per hour. Everything out of King's Cross to York and Leeds was simply shut. The Met Office had a red extreme heat warning out, the first of its kind, and Network Rail's own man went on the radio and said the railway was under exceptional stress. Passenger numbers at Britain's 20 busiest stations fell by a fifth overnight. People just stopped going. They paint the rails white. Genuinely. Crews go out with paint and coat the steel so it reflects the sun instead of drinking it, and Network Rail says it buys them 5 to 10 degrees. 5 degrees. That is the state of the art on the network that invented the railway. Paint. And they do it in advance, days before a heat wave lands, painting miles of steel by hand and hoping it is enough. There are things that would fix this properly. You can lay heavier concrete sleepers, deepen the ballast, re-stress the rail to a higher temperature, and railways in genuinely hot countries do exactly that. But Network Rail's own answer is blunt about why Britain does not. In a country where the weather swings from ice to heat wave and back inside a few months, doing all of that permanently across the whole network is neither practical nor worth the money. So instead, they patch. Speed restrictions, white paint, extreme weather teams, and a request that you please stay home. And the rails are only half of it. The overhead wires that power electric trains expand and sag in heat, and a sagging wire can tangle in the pantograph on the train's roof and rip the whole line down. Then the points, those moving junctions that steer trains between tracks, can fail as they expand. That is why Great Western locked theirs in place this week. If it cannot move, it cannot fail. There is one more thing, and it is the bit Britain does not like to talk about. About a quarter of the sleepers holding Britain's rails in place are still made of wood. Wood does not grip the steel as firmly as concrete does, so on those stretches, the rail has more freedom to move, and more freedom to move means more freedom to buckle. Britain is fighting a modern heat wave with the Victorian railway, and some of that railway is literally made of timber. So no, this is not a joke, and it is not the railway being feeble. It is a machine tuned for a climate that is quietly ceasing to exist. Every rail in Britain is set to relax at 27 degrees, because that is what a British summer used to be. The steel does not know the climate changed. It only knows what it was told when it was laid, and it was told 27. The country that gave the railway to the world set its rails for a cool gray island. And now, once or twice a summer, the island is not cool and gray anymore, and 34 degrees in London is enough to stop the whole thing dead.